Hey guys. Okay, who is ready to make something for March? Oh shoot, I just pushed the wrong button. Ugh. Okay, one sec. Oh my goodness. All of a sudden the dogs went crazy. I don't know what got them all stirred up, but we're gonna just pretend that's not happening behind me. So I'm just going to share this over into my group and then we can get started. So one of my favorite things when I saw the brand new annual idea book was the Perpetual Calendar. I love calendars. I do them every single year, and this one is awesome because it's good for like forever, right? So you don't have to constantly do big pages for it or anything. So I'm just trying to find the page in the annual here. Of course, I thought I had it, but I thought it was there. Okay, that's just, nope, oh, here it is. Aha, I was on the right page. Okay, 1 second. Let me put you down on my desk. Okay, 1 second here. I need to move a screen out of my way. Okay, so let's add my desktop on here. Okay, so the Perpetual Calendar comes, it's in the annual idea book. It's on page 65. It's got a wood backing and then blank sheets. So I'll show you the little package. Probably took me longer to find it than it's going to take to actually just pull it out. So it's number Z3888. Okay, so there's like a wood back and then there's blanks, and you fill in like your birthdays and the holidays and all that stuff. So I thought we would have some fun and create March. So I find these, because it's a little space, it's a great space to play with some fun techniques that you want to try out, something a little bit different that maybe you haven't done before. So here is what I have grabbed. I grabbed the months of the year, the March stamp, because it just kind of works. So we're going to use that one. And then I've grabbed a stencil and we're going to play with it. And I have the Ranger distressed cardstock. And the reason I'm doing this, because we're going to play with texture paste, and it gives me just a little bit more of a hard surface. And I've got my all-purpose mat. So, and then I've got a pile of markers. We're going to do a little bit of coloring. Hopefully I'm not going to spill my drink here. Okay, so I'm going to put my all-purpose mat down, and then I'm going to make you big so you can see the whole desk. And then we're just going to play with a few things, and I'm going to maybe do a few and then you guys can pick. It's going to take a little bit for them to dry, so we'll do some different stuff in the meantime. So I'm going to do, okay, so about half an hour ago, I asked what color green we should use for March. Okay, here, let's just fix this though. Nope, that's the wrong one. There we go. Okay, so I grabbed like 3 greens because I figured it was March. We had to play around with the fact that it's St. Patrick's Day in there. So I grabbed green apple and clover and evergreen. So it looks like the winner is clover. So we're going to do 2 different ones though. So we're going to, and then I grabbed this stencil because to me it felt very like Celtic and Irish, like St. Patrick's Day. And so we're going to use this. We're going to use some texture paste. I grabbed the gold stickles, glitter gel, and the color is, nope, I still don't see it. It must have been on the other part that comes off, but this is the one that has like the little stars in it. So, and the reason I decided to do this as a live was because a couple weeks ago I showed you guys these sheets that I'd done, right? So this is just regular ink with the stickles, and then this is just using like regular ink with the stencils, and how easy it is to create a fun background. So I thought, well, let's just do that for the month of March. Okay, so I'm going to move one out of my way so I don't get them all messy at the same time. Okay, so one of them we're going to do clover and texture paste and the stickles. And then the second one, we're going to use evergreen shimmer brush and the texture paste and the stickles. And then we can decide. I'm going to try and do them super thin so that they can dry. Okay, so I've got my palette knives here. That can go behind me there. Okay, so I grabbed clover because I guess clover does technically scream kind of St. Patrick's Day, right? So I'm just going to put some down on my all-purpose mat. Okay, so my biggest tip, if you're playing with texture paste and you're going to run it through a stencil and put it on something, is when you make your color, make enough that you're going to be able to cover your surface, because it's super hard to color match exactly after. Okay, so my texture paste, this is well loved texture paste. Okay, so I obviously don't have a very big surface here, so I don't need like a crazy ton. So I'm going to put some down on my all-purpose mat. I'm going to cover this up because it dries up quickly and you don't want it to dry out. So the texture paste, you can get like a package that there's the 3 different kinds if you want to just try playing with them. And they're just little. They're the same size as like this. And so I'm just stirring this up. Okay. And there we go. I love the moon dust one because it's like the clear one, but I thought with the gold it kind of screams St. Patrick's Day too, right? So I'm just gonna mix the texture paste with the ink. So here's how you can play with it, right? Obviously the white is going to dilute your color. Actually, it's funny because it probably doesn't look like this on camera, but this totally kind of reminds me of a shamrock shake. It's kind of that color. Okay, so that's more than enough, and I'm kind of happy with the color. So now I can just add the stickles right in and mix it. Or you could do it as a separate layer on top. But I'm gonna just mix it right in with my color. I'm actually gonna take all of it, I think. And literally, you can add as much as you want. Okay, so this, we're just creating the little backdrop for our March calendar at the top. So there's lots and lots of options here. So depending on how you want it to look, you can add it right in the middle, you can offset it, you could do a bigger piece and then cut it up, right? I could have done a bigger piece and then use the leftovers for cards and stuff. So I know, so this is what the green apple looked like mixed with the stickles and the texture paste. So that kind of just gives you an idea of what I'm going for here. So I've got, this is the actual center of the stencil and I've kind of just offset it. So I think maybe for this one, we'll play with just a slightly different view, right? So maybe I'll go dead center with this, the flower in the middle. Now the thing is, I do know that I'm going to cover it up, so but that's okay. Okay guys, this is definitely St. Patrick's Day green. Okay, so if you want, you could tape this down if you don't want it to move. So I could just grab like the edge of my paper here with a little piece of washi tape and my stencil, and then it's not going to move. I typically just hold it. Sometimes you have accidents and that's okay. So now I'm just going to push the texture paste through the stencil, and I want it kind of light, or not light, thin, because I want it to dry or get close to drying while we're doing this. Okay, so I want it kind of as thin as possible. And you could do the whole surface or just do parts of it. It's totally just depends on the look that you're looking for. I don't think that's probably pretty good, very good English there, but. Okay, so, and you can see I'm not lifting up my stencil, I'm just going to be happy with the results. Okay, so I'm taking off what I don't need before I lift it. Like I said, I'm hoping that it's gonna dry enough that we can use it. Okay, so then the big reveal. This is always the best part. So I should have grabbed somewhere else to set this down. Okay, well, we're gonna go like that. Okay, so look how pretty that is. So it's just the gold is, I'm just gonna push that star down there. The gold is just kind of sprinkled throughout, and now it's gonna dry, and we will play with it. But I thought we would, okay, so I'm gonna put this one up here. So I told you there's other ways that you can color it. So we're gonna do a second one because we've got all the stuff out, we might as well. So I'm gonna show you the difference. We are just going to, I'm just gonna see if I flip this around, I'm worried I'm gonna end up making a bigger mess. But I got lots of stuff out on my desk. Okay, maybe I'll just clean this up a little bit, and then I just have some wet wipes here because I'm not obviously near my sink. So I'm just gonna wipe this off. Okay, so I'm gonna show you another fun one. Okay, so we've got this one, we're set it aside, we're gonna let it dry. Hopefully it'll be dry for us to do something with it. Okay, so I still have some white here and a little bit of the gold. Okay, so now I have my evergreen shimmer brush, and we'll do a second one that's a little bit darker. So like I said, you can color it with whatever you want to color. So on top of like the ink that we did, right? You can do distress inks, regular inks, shimmer brushes. So I'm just going to get some more texture paste here because I can tell already that's going to be dark. Okay, so I'm going to add some onto my mat. And again, I'll close it up even though I could potentially need more. But depending on what you put in it to change the color to, remember you're going to change the consistency of the texture paste. So the shimmer brush is more liquidy, right? So, and you can see how much darker that is than the first one that we did, right? So evergreen is darker, but this is darker than we would even get it, I think, with ink instantaneously. So, and then we'll add some stickles in it just so they're the same. Okay, so let's just add that much onto my surface. Okay, and so the gel is a little bit funny too. It's like the consistency of jelly for sure. So it also affects the consistency of your texture paste. Okay, so this is a pretty color. I don't think I'm going to use it for my March calendar, but we're going to push it through and I'll probably make a card with it because I think it's too dark for March. Okay, and I'm just trying to put this right back in exactly the same spot. And then, okay, so I'm going to move this so the circle is up higher. And I have my washi tape there, so if I push it down, it's going to hold it in place. Okay. And this time, same thing, right? Because I picked Wisteria and Ballerina to be kind of my other two colors, that's why I think this one's too dark. But it's a fun little experiment and then you guys get to see two colors. Okay, so I'm just going to pick everything up I have on my mat. And like I said, I'm just going to turn this one into a card, I think. Because it's I've cut this down to 4 by 5, I think. So I'll just mat it and add a sentiment and throw it on my card front. Okay. Okay, this one is like stunning in person. I think I'm just gonna lift this whole thing up and move it over. Okay, so that one looks different, right? It looks completely different and it's different than the green apple one. Okay, 1 second. I'm gonna put this behind me on a paper towel there. I'm just going to wipe some of this off of my mat. So that is kind of important because it's all going to harden, but like I've used this stencil a ton and it you would never know, right? the shimmer brush, that shimmer brush in particular is very dark, right? So if we had used a different one like Ballerina, Ballerina looks beautiful with the, I'm just going to scrape this off so I can move it behind me and not put my hand back in it. Ballerina looks beautiful with the texture paste also. So, like I said, it's super fun to play with, right? And do all sorts of things with. So you can use it like as a part of a background for a scrapbooking page. You could cut it up and use it as accent pieces. You can use it as a card front. You can use it like I'm going to use it today as a little piece on the calendar. All sorts of fun things. Okay, I'm just kind of getting some of it off. And then I'm going to put this behind me. So we're going to use the clover one for sure. And then, so here's the difference here. Okay, so we're going to go, that's clover. That's green apple. And then that's the evergreen with the shimmer brush in it. And I do think it's darker, I think, than it would have been if we had done it with just ink. Okay. So, but I think we're going to use the clover because, like I said, it's our March one, so it kind of screams like St. Patrick's Day. Okay, I'm just making sure I don't have green all over myself to put on everything else. Okay, so I can put that behind me. Okay, I'm going to move the really dark one behind me too. Okay, and we're going to hope this dries while we do the rest. So that is the green apple one. Okay, and I'm going to move my shimmer brush out of my way too because I will end up with that all over myself too. Okay, so here is the base of our calendar. So let's do some stamping. So I have my Versamat. Okay, and like I said, I grabbed the March month calendar. So I did stamp these before. They all are beautiful greens. And actually, the funny thing is I'm not a huge green fan. It would never be like a go-to color, probably. But they all are beautiful. I think for sure, like I don't think clover would be like my go-to green, but it kind of just screams St. Patrick's Day, doesn't it? And March, right? So that's why I pulled that one out. Okay, so I'm just trying to move a few things out of the way. So I stamped these before because I knew I wanted to color them. So we're gonna do, because I think my idea is kind of, okay, this one's the dry one. I'm kind of thinking like this, and then a couple of clusters sticking out. And then I have some gold glitter paper here. And so originally, actually, I was going to use the Here Comes the Sun, but I don't think I'm going to. I then think I'm going to use this one, Welcome Spring, and then put those florals behind it. And then a couple butterflies. So I think that's kind of my plan. That's what happened in my head, but it doesn't always, you know, end up the same. So we're going to do, so this is the clover one, and we can either do Bluebell, which I don't like that one, but maybe we'll do the evergreen, or I have the wisteria too. It would actually look really good with a black one too. Okay, well, let's do some coloring first and then we'll decide. So this is our bottom. So my thought is I'm going to put some of the black glitter paper at the very bottom. And so there's this super cute little stamp that is got the butterflies on it. And they're all butterflies, like different size butterflies. So I think we're just going to stamp it across the bottom. And I think we'll use wisteria. So the fun thing is I think that most of these stamps of the, like, no, calendar months, is that what they're called? Months of the year are going to have a little border to put across the bottom, which is also very, very handy for scrapbooking. So everything, like a border stamp is awesome to fill in a little bit of space that you need to fill in. And it's big enough you could also use it on a card. Because it is 4 3/4. Okay. So I'm going to do it just above, like just below the numbers. And I know they're going to get cut off because I'm going to add that shimmer glitter paper to the bottom. So I'm just going to hold it here for a second. Now I'm totally thinking we need a black bracket. So I might have to cut one of those. Okay, so there we go. We've got our butterflies on the bottom. And so now we're just going to add this little bit of gold on the bottom. Because March is all about leprechauns and gold. So I just cut like a 1/4 of an inch strip. Okay, and then I'm going to stamp the March up here once we know what our spacing is like. Okay, so there we go. So let's color. So I think I want 2 of these, and we're going to stamp some butterflies. So it's got the ability to be a 2-tone stamp. So we're going to do that. We're going to color 2 of these and then we'll do some butterflies. So you have to fussy cut these. So I'm just going to cut it down so I only have 2. And let's color. So I have my markers here. So these are what I've pulled out. So for purples and pinks, I have hydrangea, pale pink, and alpine pink. I have for yellow, gold brown and citrus. And then I have alpine green and dull green. And then I have ice gray and my blender. So what I'm going to do here, let's just get a little scrap of paper to put underneath here so that we're not coloring through. So I'm going to do my leaves first. So first I'm going to take my greens. So let's go Alpine Light. And so this is like big, like a coloring book stamp set is what it reminds me of. Like nice thick lines, tons of room for error, right? The thick line gives you more room to be able to have some bleed or get closer to your edges without going over. Okay, so I've laid in the Alpine green, and now I'm going to go with my dull green, my medium. So they have 3 colors, right? So I'm going with my middle one. I'm just going to go over one more time and see what happens there. Might have to go back in and lighten it with my blender, but we might be okay. Okay, so same thing. I'm going to do the second one to match. So I've got my Alpine green with my light. And I'm adding the dull green because I think this one's just too bright. See, and this coloring is giving our other stuff a chance to dry, right? So do you think I could find like brighter post-it notes to have sitting on my desk for you guys? I'm sure it's gotta make everything stand out against them. Okay, and then just in with my dull green. This little, I love this little cluster of flowers. It just kind of screams spring, and that's why I kind of thought I would do the other sentiment that says welcome spring, because I'm already here for spring, that is for sure. Okay, so now I'm going to do the big flowers, and I kind of want them to go like to match the wisteria color. So that's why I went with these colors. So I'm going to go with hydrangea first, and my medium hydrangea. And then I'm going to lay the gray over top of it. I'm going to do this color twice. Because remember, every time you're coloring, every layer you add is altering or adapting the layer below it. So here's the hydrangea, which is a fun, like purpley purple. Okay, so I'm just going to go over it one more time. I'm not really super worried about going right to the edge with this one. I just kind of wanted another layer. Okay, and then I'm going to take my ice gray in the medium and run over the hydrangea. Okay, and it kind of turns it more, well, like a gray purple versus that super bright purple. Okay, and I'll do the other one exactly the same. I love these tri-blend markers. They color so nicely. If like the worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to go through my paper, I'm okay with that. Okay, so there we go. We've got our first layer in. Okay, so now I'm just adding a little bit more of that color. Okay, and then I'll go back in with that gray. And then we're going to do yellow middles and a couple of these other flowers yellow and then a pink quickly. Okay, they're super pretty. Okay, and so I'm going to show you. So that's kind of what we were going for there. Okay, so now let's do the yellow. So let's go with, just gonna do this, I think. Okay, so this is the gold light, and then I'm gonna go citrus dark over top of it, just to brighten it up a little bit. Just kind of makes it pop. Okay, and then I need to do it here, this little flower, and then this one. And then we'll do the rest pink. So this just kind of gives it the like gray, not gray, beige undertone. And then we'll make it pop with the brighter color on top. Okay. We're almost done the coloring. Okay, super cute. Okay, so then let's do our pink and then we're done. Okay, that's hydrangea, gray. Okay, so for pink here, we're gonna do something fun. And we've got our blender. Okay, so I'm gonna take this antique pink in the light and I'm going to put a layer down. Okay, and then we're going to soften it with our blender. Okay, I could probably do this at the same time, this little one over here. I'm going to do the two separate flowers. Okay, so then I'm going to run my blender over it to lighten it up and pull some of that color out. And I'm going to do it again. Okay, and then I'm going to take the pale pink and go over top of it. Like that. Okay, so same thing. I'm going to take the antique and I'll just quickly, no, it's actually, we're just gonna use it even if it's a little bit wet. Okay, so that's the antique pink, right? And then we're gonna take our blender and just soften it up. And again. And then if I wanted to, like I could go and add more in here, but because it reminds me, this image reminds me so much of like a coloring book coloring, I don't really think it needs like shading and all that kind of stuff. So there we go. So that's totally what it reminds me of, is like coloring with your coloring book. So we're gonna fussy cut these out quickly. And you saw I cut them apart to make it easier so that I'm just dealing with a smaller piece of paper. And I'm trying to hold my hand relatively still and move my paper. And again, same thing. This is a really easy image to cut out because it does, right, look like a coloring book image. So it's got those nice thick lines. You can decide how close or far away you want to go. Plus, I know that some of it's going to be tucked underneath, so I'm not really worried about making it super perfect. But I think I've decided, I think we need a black bracket to make, because of the nice black lines here. I'm thinking that's what we're going to do. So, of course, like the one color I don't have cut, but we'll just do that quickly. See, I can always have like a general plan, but then things kind of always change. That is the fun of life. Okay. So then we'll do a couple butterflies and then we're done. So the butterflies are easy because they're just, we're going to do some tone on tone stamping, or not tone on tone. We're going to do some, like, because there's a background stamp, so we can just stamp the back of the butterfly and then we're going to stamp the lines. So you could also use it if you just wanted like a solid butterfly. You could just use the background and stamp it with a color. I'm kind of trying to fussy cut relatively fast for you guys. Just imagine when all the stamps you used to have to fussy cut, right? Before the invention or addition of thin cuts. And they make our lives so much easier. Gotta love a good thin cut. And I always try and find, like when I'm looking through the idea book, I try and find those thin cuts that maybe not necessarily do I think like the stamp set is the most awesome, but like that have like shapes that you're going to be able to use over and over and over again. Okay, so then, so you can see there's a background to the butterfly and then there's lines. So you can just stamp him like this and color, right? Or you can do, let's make a ballerina butterfly. So I'm going to stamp my back of my butterfly. I'm going to do it twice, just in case we need to. Right? So you could also, oops, sorry, they're very light and they're catching the light. So you could just use them like that, right? And cut them out. I don't know if you guys heard that, but so Emmy is sitting in her chair in my office and she doesn't make a lot of noise, but she sighs. Like you totally know all the time. Yes, no kidding, eh? What a wonderful little invention thin cuts were. And I mean, like a Cricut is great, but just to be able to have the ability to pull out something so small and cut with it is totally awesome. Okay, so see, I don't know if how well you could see it, but now we have the ballerina background and her little lines are in black, and we'll cut these out and then we'll pull over our pieces and you guys tell me if you think I should cut out a black bracket. I feel like you're gonna say yes, black, but we'll see when we pull all these parts together. So like I said too, these same things that I'm using to make this calendar piece or display or whatever you want to call it, the March calendar insert, I guess would be right. You could also use them to make a scrapbooking page, a card. When I saw this stamp set, I actually thought both things. It's a great stamp set for scrapbooking. Like I could totally see here comes the sun, and then you know how we did this stencil there's the stencil that looks like the sun rays. That would be awesome with it. The month is a great way to be able to just like document what month it is literally in your scrapbook. And there's two versions of March, right? Like there's a scripty one that's a little bit bigger, and then there's a small, finer one. Okay, so just quickly, Fussy, cut out those two butterflies. Okay. Okay, so here we go. Here is our clover. Okay, so here are options. But I think maybe, okay, so this is, so let's just pretend, I'm going to restamp this, but let's just pretend we have this. Oh, that's kind of nice too. So that's the wisteria. And then we have like, we could go, no, candy apple, green apple. And then I have bluebell here. Okay, or let's see what's in this little pocket here. I have sapphire. Or should we do black? I feel like I'll grab a scrap of black and maybe we can look at that. Of course, and then my black piece of cardstock is too big to go through this, so let's just cut this down. Okay. I just did it on the floor so that it wouldn't shake the table. I think we're going to go with the black though, guys. So, sapphire looks great too. Yes, I know. That's what I thought. And it's just kind of a fluke that it was in there. Okay, so should we do sapphire or should we do black? So that's the black. And then here's the sapphire. And then, okay, so then let's envision this in here too. I think we'll go black. And I think I'm going to kind of trim this down a little bit too, because it does look like the wisteria matches the flowers, like that. Okay, so let's trim this down because so I want to be able to stamp March right here. And I'm going to use the skinny little March. Okay, so let's just do that first. So it is, I know, I see this is how I end up. I'm going to tell you, this is how I end up with 3 different versions of things. And, or for sure 2 different versions of things. I'm just looking for a pencil. I'm just trying to find, sorry. I just want to mark my middle so I can stamp March. I quite often, for sure, end up with 2 different color versions. I love colors and color combinations. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to stamp March in black which will also make a difference. Which kind of die cutting machine do I use? So I have the Close to My Heart one. I've had everything. Like I had a Cuddlebug before you couldn't get like other parts for it. I do have the one that Close to My Heart has. I had a Big Shot before also. Okay, I have not stamped this stamp, so we're going to stamp it on a piece of paper first. Because I don't actually know if I've even seasoned it. So I'm just going to rub it on my... We're cleaning it with my skin. So I like the Close to My Heart one, and I'll tell you why. Well, for starters, because it folds up and fits into a small space. And then I like the fact that it's easy to go from embossing folders to thin cuts with. Okay, that's better. Okay, so I just know that I want it just above my months, and I've just marked the middle. So I'm just going to aim to get my R over the middle. Okay, I'm not gonna erase my line. I'm gonna leave it there for quite a while because my ink will still be wet, right? So, but I will erase it after. Okay, so then I'm gonna cut just a little bit. So just remember too, when you have that texture paste on here, and this is thick paper already, and it's kind of probably not quite dry, and I'm running it through my trimmer. I could end up making a mess, but okay. So we're gonna go like that, and I'm gonna add a gold strip for sure here at the top to match the one at the bottom. Okay. There's pros and cons to all of the machines, really. Just you want something that you can replace the parts is all I'm gonna say. Like the cutting mat, and that's the nice thing about it right now. Okay, so there we go. So I knew I wanted that on the bottom, on the top to match the bottom. And let's just see if we've trimmed off enough. No, I'm gonna cut it just a little bit more so that it'll just fit nicely in there. And like I said, it is slightly wet still, so hopefully I don't make too much of a mess. Okay, there we go. So I'm gonna add this layer in. Okay, and you know what? Because I don't want this to fall off, and it is a little bit heavier paper, I'm just gonna add some score tape to it, I think. Just because I don't want it to fall off. Just once I glue it down though, we're not moving it. So you have a Cuddlebug and it seems like it's hard to get the plates to go through. Is it because they're so warped? because the problem is eventually they probably will crack. And because you can't get a replacement for them anymore, which is, I find very interesting because it obviously sold. I guess they just don't want to be in that market anymore. They're just electronics. So, like electronic die cutting machines, I mean, not electronics, but okay. So, okay, let's just, I think we fit well now. I think I even had enough room if I wanted to. No. Funny, I always know pretty much instantaneously. Okay. Because the plates get warped and the machine takes so much wear and tear on it, that's why I think it's important to be able to get parts and pieces to things. So, okay, so I'm just going to butt it right up to my glitter paper. Okay, so I also, guys, I'm kind of liking the purple. Okay, and we've got some gold embellishing thread because you all know I love that. Okay, so let's stamp our welcome spring. Okay, so I have just the smaller bracket, and do you see what happened here? It just kind of hits the stitching. So I am going to wipe that off after I ink it up so that I don't get the little leaves falling over to the side there. So I'm going to stamp it with black. Oh, I'm not shaking my camera too much. There we go. Now I'm just going to gently, with my chamois, wipe off those leaves because I don't want them to stamp. I could have totally covered them up with like a post-it note while I was inking it up also. And if they end up there, then that's fine too. Okay, so see, now I don't have those leaves over here, right? Okay, and my chamois is not crazy wet anymore because it's been sitting there for a while. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to tuck one underneath, and we're going to put one right here, and we're only going to need one butterfly, I think, but we're going to add a butterfly. That's what it's going to look like. We're going to add some gold embellishing thread. I'm going to have it come off the bottom here. And we will just add some 3D foam tape between the layers, and I think we're going to call that one done. Okay, so I have a long length of embellishing thread. Okay, I'm just going to move some stuff out of my way here. Let's put, okay, so I think, oh, maybe I'll pop this up with thin 3D foam tape, and then I could tuck one underneath one of the flower clusters. So this is one of the awesome things about the different thicknesses of the 3D foam tape, right? You can, and see, this would be totally pretty just the way it is too, right? So like I said, they're great for lots of different uses. I just thought that this might be a fun little technique live to do. So, because lots of people seem to be afraid of texture paste, and there is zero to be afraid of texture paste. If I can do it, anybody can do it, right? So, there we go. Yeah, I think I really like the wisteria one there. Okay, so we are going to, I'm going to tuck that underneath there. So before I sandwich down my tape too much, okay, and then I'm going to do thin again here. I love this little monthly series of stamps for sure. Okay. So, oh, I know what we need to do. We need to do our embellishing thread before we stick this down. So all the backing's off that. So I'm just going to take my embellishing thread, and I want this one a little bit bigger. So I'm going to wrap it around all my fingers. Right, just like that. And then you could play with it how you want it to look, whether you want it to be messy or neat or whatever. And then, okay, so these are the medium size glue dots. You can use any glue dot though. Ooh, I dropped this. So I'm just going to lay my threads across my glue dots. And then I'm going to take, if I had used the big ones, then I would just fold it over. But these are like the medium sized ones. So I'm just going to take another glue dot off with my piercing tool and try not to get it stuck there on my threads. And I'm just laying it over top. Okay, so now when I lift it up, they're all together and easy to tuck however I want or put wherever I want. So here we're going to do that there. I'm just going to trim that little end there. Okay, we've got our welcome spring like that. Now I'm going to 3D foam tape this down, so the thicker level. There we go. Okay, and I know, right, that my flowers are kind of going to go over top, so I'm not going to add my 3D foam tape there. I'm adding it kind of over here and over here. And then I can just kind of nestle it right in. So I can go like that, right? And then we have a butterfly, and I'm just going to put some 3D foam tape down the middle of his body. You know what? It's so funny. I always call butterflies male, and I'm not really sure why, because they're very pretty. So just like that. Okay. And now, okay, let's move some stuff out of our way so we don't look like we're, okay, so that's how it's looking. Then, last thing, I'm going to add a few sequins, gold, of course, for St. Patrick's Day. And then we're all done. So has anybody been doing the Perpetual Calendar inserts? Okay, guys. Okay, I have literally not even opened these. Okay, so Close to My Heart has tweezers back. We're going to try them today. This is literally the first time I'm opening the bag. Okay, let's see how we do here. It is. And I think they would make great gifts. Like we have Mother's Day coming up, right? Oh, I just dropped it. I wasn't really even paying attention as I was talking. Okay. So I'm just picking up a gold sequin and I'm going to add it to my dot and then I'll pick them up. And I'm kind of picking different finishes. And sizes. And we're going to go with an odd number. So we're either going to do 3 or 5. We will see in a second. I'm just trying to see if my head is totally in the camera. Okay. Because it's not a very big surface, I think we'll go with 3 smaller and 2 big ones. Okay, these are good. I will say I like them. They've got nice pointy tips, so it kind of also works like a piercing tool, which you all know I love too. So oh yes, I like them. Okay, there we go. So I think that turned out really cute. Okay, I'll move my Versamat out of the way. Okay, so we made our background and we colored our flowers and we altered our title slightly and we made a little butterfly and then, but I think it came together really cute. So that is what I have for you guys today, Thursday. And so I hope somebody is going to try this and post it. So I also grabbed out, oh, maybe we will add these. Okay, so I've got platinum stickles. Just because some days, guys, I just never know when to leave it alone. I'm just going to January and February. No, I didn't do January and February, I don't think. I did November and December inside the membership group, but I don't think I did January and February. Oh, that's just cute. Okay, so I just added a few little stickle dots there, and I'm going to add stickle dots onto this yellow flower. So when the stickles dry, they'll dry differently than the way they look right now. So right now they might look like an obsessive amount of gold, but when they actually dry, they lighten. So I just did it on the butterfly and this little flower right there. So, but if you guys like this, then we'll do like a series of them and I'll keep coming back. So I'll do an April one where we'll do something different, like a different technique or something like that. Or something fun with it. Because I do love these. So I could maybe go back and fill in January and February. We will have to see. Okay guys, that is what I have for you today. I'll take some pictures and some like glamour shots of it, and I will post them later. But there you go. That's how that turned out. And thank you to everybody that helped me pick the green and my background color. And that's what I've got for you today. Have a great night, guys. Bye-bye.